A squadron was historically a cavalry subunit, a company-sized military formation. The term is still used to refer to modern cavalry units but can also be used as a designation for other arms and services. In some countries, like Italy, the battalion-level cavalry unit is called Squadron Group. United States. In the modern United States Army, a squadron is an armored cavalry, air cavalry, or other reconnaissance unit whose organizational role parallels that of a battalion and is commanded by a lieutenant colonel. Prior to the revisions in the U.S. Army structure in the 1880s, U.S. cavalry regiments were divided into companies, and the battalion was an administrative designation used only in garrison. The reorganizations converted companies to troops and battalions to squadrons, and made squadrons tactical formations as well as administrative ones. Commonwealth. In the British Army and many other Commonwealth armies, a squadron is the Royal Armoured Corps counterpart of an infantry company or artillery battery. A squadron is a subunit of a battalion-sized formation, and is usually made up of 2 or more troops. The designation is also used for company-sized units in the Special Air Service, Special Reconnaissance Regiment, Honourable Artillery Company, Royal Engineers, Royal Corps of Signals, Royal Army Medical Corps, Royal Marine Commandos and Royal Logistic Corps, and in the defunct Royal Corps of Transport. Squadrons are commonly designated using letters and numbers. In some British Army units it is a tradition for squadrons to also be named after an important historical battle in which the regiment has taken part. For example, the Royal Armoured Corps Training Regiment assigns trainees to Waterloo Squadron, named in honour of the significance the cavalry played in the Allied forces' victory over Napoleon. In some special cases, squadrons can also be named after a unique honour which has been bestowed on the unit. France. The modern French army is composed of troupes à pied and troupes à cheval. Nowadays, the term escadron is used to describe a company of mounted soldiers, but, for a long time, a cavalry escadron corresponded to an infantry battalion, both units regrouping several companies. The term compagnie has been discontinued and replaced by escadron in cavalry units since 1815 and in transportation units since 1968. In the mounted arms, a captain in charge of an escadron is thus called a chef d'escadron. However, his superior in the hierarchy has the rank of chef d'escadrons. After 1815, the army began to write chef d'escadrons with an S in cavalry units to reflect the fact that this officer, who used to be in charge of one squadron, was now in charge of several squadrons. In other mounted branches, chef d'escadron is still spelled without S. Sweden. In the Swedish cavalry, escadron means a unit with the same size as a company. In the rest of the army, even Jaeger and MP units may have squadrons. Norway. The Norwegian army operates with units called eskadroner, typically a company equivalent unit, generally in armored cavalry units, although not always. The 2nd Battalion, Brigade Nord, has a company equivalent unit called Cavalry Eskadronen, or the Cavalry Squadron. It serves as the main reconnaissance unit in the battalion. Like the mechanized infantry units, it wears the distinct khaki-colored beret of the battalion instead of the normal black for cavalry units. The armored battalion has the majority of its constituents labeled eskadroner, including the cavalry squadron, the armored squadron and the assault squadrons. It also includes the battalion's support element, the combat support squadron. Its members are also referred to as dragoons, reflecting the nature of the unit. The Telemark battalion also has a number of units labeled eskadroner. This includes the armored squadron, the cavalry squadron and the combat support squadron. Camp Esquadron, a squadron consisting of 2 mechanized infantry platoons, mounted on CV-90s, 1 armored platoon with Leopard 2s and a combat service support unit. Its soldiers referred to as dragoons and consisting mostly of conscripted troops, used as OPFOR in exercise operations with other parts of the Norwegian Army. Poland. Squadron was used exclusively for companies of cavalry before 1948. After 1948, the name has been used for the armored formations of varying sizes.